Hi, this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Our devotion for today, February 14th, 2023, is from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 11, verses 15 through 19. And they came to Jerusalem, and he entered the temple and began to drive out those who sold and those who bought or brought in the temple. And he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold pigeons. And he would not allow anyone to carry anything through the temple. And he was teaching them and saying to them, "Is it not written, 'My house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations'? But you have made it a den of robbers." And the chief priests and the scribes heard it, and they were seeking a way to destroy him. For they feared him, because all the crowd was astonished at his teaching. And when evening came, they went out of the city. Our devotion today is Mark's account of Jesus entering the temple on what we call Palm Sunday and clearing the temple of all the money changers and those who sold animals for temple sacrifices. Today, Christians often refer to this as Jesus cleansing the temple. Why did Jesus do this? Because the money changers were making a profit when they converted the currency of the people to the temple money, the only kind allowed in the temple. And because the outer courts of the temple looked more like a petting zoo or a barnyard, and those merchants were also making a profit in the sale of their temple-approved animals for sacrifice. The temple had lost its way. It had become more of a place of business than a place of worship and prayer. And Jesus would have none of it any longer, and so he cleared and cleansed the temple. But the focus for today's devotion is something else. It is what Jesus says as he confronts those running the temple and transacting business in the temple. Mark records Jesus as saying, "Is it not written, 'My house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations'?" You may wonder where it is written. Well, you'll find it in the writings of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 56, verse 7. "These I will bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be accepted on my altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples." I point out that Jesus quotes Isaiah, written 700 years before he was born. Note again what the quote says, "For my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples." All peoples, Jews and Gentiles. In other words, the whole world, 700 years before Jesus was even born. The salvation of the Gentiles, your salvation, my salvation, was already proclaimed well before Jesus ever came into the world. Saving the Gentiles was not a last-minute plan B for Jesus. It was part of the original plan. Before Jesus was ever born into this world, God was already at work preparing your salvation and had his prophets proclaiming it. Smile. Your salvation by the Lord was not an afterthought. It was an original thought. Go in peace. Serve the Lord.